This video is titled Man Attempts to Cure Humanity's Spiritual Blindness on his way home. And so what I'm saying will cure your spiritual blindness. Now, what is that? Spiritual blindness is when you are unable to perceive consciousness, or you're unable to perceive awareness. And so when that happens, if you can't perceive consciousness, if you can't perceive awareness, then anything having to do with the mind becomes invisible to you. So like all the archetypes, deities, imaginary realms, all of that becomes visible. You might believe in those things or even interact with those things, right? Like a blind person can interact with this world a lot, especially if he just makes friends, right? Like people that can see in the world will help you out, and you know how to interact with the world, and it's great. So there's spiritual realities that people have figured out. Like as a blind person, you can figure stuff out by feeling your way through it. And so this should just reveal truth that you might have figured out. But yeah, so that's the blindness. It's like if you can't see the mind, then you can't see emotion. You can't see the soul, right? The soul is the thing that is looking, right? You can't see the soul. It's very hard to see how the soul is formed and dissipates, and where it is and where it comes from, and all that stuff. And so the looker, you can't see the looker. And so there's a lot of speculation about what happens to the looker, where is the looker, and all of that is from spiritual blindness, and because people can tell pretty easily, you're not the thing seeing, or you're not the seeing. Like right now, I see a coconut tree, but my eyes are seeing the coconut tree, and then I'm seeing the vision from somewhere. I'm not the thing going out and doing the coconut tree. I'm somewhere in this body, looking at my vision. I'm somewhere in this body looking at my sensations. And yeah, so basically, if you want to cure your spiritual blindness, your water is the consciousness. Water is the awareness. So that's where you're looking at things from. And what you're looking at is on the surface of what you are, which is your water. So on the surface of the body water, which is a very dense, fractally, networky sort of thing, you're seeing your body, your body processes, all the objects dissolved in it, and then all of the metabolism, all the electricity, all the waves moving through you. But you're looking, your awareness is water. That's where the eye is looking from. And so to have this picture of this type of seeing from this body, this visual image, the optic nerve is causing a very interesting thing inside of the body water. And so you're looking at the activity of the optic nerves as it interacts with all the other activity of the body, and then that's where seeing comes from, and that's why seeing looks like it's coming out this way. That's just because of the nature of the eyeball. or it's the nature of that visual seeing, and it goes into the brain, right? So it goes up, it tangles together and sort of just creates all this, but it's creating it and presenting itself to the body water. That's where the looking is from, and so the whole world is inside of the body water. Kind of folded in on itself. And people have seen this. Like people have seen, you can do things to make the surface of your consciousness more visible or less visible. You can put different frequencies or different vibrations in the surface of the water, and that can make the water visible. So different drugs will do that, breathing patterns, slowing down, speeding up. Like when you're looking at your consciousness in the water, there's a certain refractory index to it, right? This is the nature of awareness. Like if you realize that water is awareness, then you can see the nature of awareness. And so the nature of awareness, if you look at it, it's the same as the nature of water, because it is water. In terms of this human sense, right? It is the human awareness is water. And water is awareness. And so like you can look at the surface and you'll notice that you can't see water. That's why people think that their consciousness is invisible. And they're technically correct, right? But you can see your consciousness the exact same way that you can see water. If you're in water in every single direction forever, actually no, you can't see it. It's just there's no way to see it. It's not there. It's just that much resistance. But if you're outside of water or looking at water where there's a boundary, where there's not water on the other side of it, like where there's something, there's water is awareness, and so on the other side of water is things that are not aware, or at least that you're not aware of. Like things where you're not aware of, that means that you're a body of water, a bounded ball of awareness, and you can look out at your surface. You can have surfaces inside of yourself with little bubbles, and then you can have the surface that's like just you compressed, you, and then outwards is the world. Right? So you can contain surfaces inside of you that's like lower, like with the air, and then outside of you. So your body can have bubbles. Your body has bubbles, and your body has a surface, and then that surface, imagine like looking at water. If you're looking at water from the right angle or a steep angle, or there's ripples or stuff, it makes the surface more visible. Why? Because the surface is reflecting the environment. You can't see the surface because the surface does not emit light. I don't think, not in the strictest sense of the word. And it doesn't reflect light directly, but so there's, when light passes through water, it diffracts, like it changes its direction. And so you can see light doing, and you go, you see the light changing direction, like something that's normally like straight line, laws of physics. When it enters into water, it changes direction, and then it changes the direction again when it exits, and you can see the sum total of all those direction changes. And you go, oh, there's the boundary layer of that water, there's the surface. Or you're seeing light from somewhere else come in and bounce off the surface, and again you're seeing, so you can't see water. All you see is like how it influences light that was going elsewhere, sort of. Like water bends and changes where light's going. And that's where the surface comes from. And it's doing that a ton. So you can take all the averages of that like distortion, and it looks like an object. But you're not seeing water as an object the way that you see most other objects. Like the way that you see grass, like grass is no, everything works this way. Like everything is just reflection, absorption. But water's doing it at this like human scale, at the level of your perceptions, at the level of your body. You know, I'll argue that when you look at water, you're looking at the behavior of like essentially electrons. So you could say that the the electron space around all atoms, and when they bond together, you're looking at a fractal, tiny, microscopic surface of water. Water not being necessarily H2O, like that configuration is what makes the water here at this scale. You can see what we call water, the properties of water is more akin to what we call electrons, or the ether. Ether, like water is ether, and then ether takes other forms, especially in these things. That's why electricity has so many similarities to it. So when you're looking at any object, it's just because the surface of the ether is reflecting some light and bending some light, and it does that aggressively. Like if something changes the light very aggressively, you'll get like, oh, the grass is green. Like the sun's bouncing off of it and it's like absorbing some stuff. Like some stuff is absorbed at that's what the difference is. Like with grass, so the light comes in, it hits it, and the grass absorbs some of the light. Water doesn't directly absorb the light necessarily. And like grass only reflects back green. Or is it absorbing green? Anyway, it's doing something like that. Every surface of anything is doing something like that, and that's what determines its color, is because it's distorting light in one way or another. It's absorbing it, it's changing its angle. It's either absorbing it, letting it pass through with a different angle, or it's reflecting it. And so that's kind of the water on every element, or all like matter. The road that you're driving on top of is just water at that tiny little skin layer scale, which is still like consciousness. It's awareness or whatever. Awareness that isn't aware of itself is like a bubble of awareness, and then there's a different type of like gaseous awareness separating it from, you can have two bodies of water connected with a very ephemeral, diffuse consciousness of what we'll call the air. But if you get one body of water, that's your awareness, and so your consciousness or your awareness is as difficult to see as water is, and you can only see it by looking at how it distorts things, looking at how it absorbs or distorts or reflects things. It doesn't do anything itself. So all of those distortions happening along the surface, you go, oh, there's the surface of water. You see the surface of water even though it's not there. You see it as an object, even though like seeing water is an inference. But it's the same type of inference that you see with everything. So it's like a real inference. It's a movement of consciousness, and that movement of consciousness changes light, and then that causes a surface to become visible. Going around in circles. So to become not spiritually blind, you realize just how beautiful, wonderful, amazing, ephemeral, shimmering, glorious water is, and like it's wow. And then here, it's the most mundane thing ever. Nobody cares about it. But the only reason any other thing is good is because it has these properties of water. It has these properties of ether. Water is only good because it has the properties of consciousness. Gold is only good because it has the properties of like water. It's conductive, shiny, shimmering. If you're ever going to be good at anything, it has to flow out of you. And then you can see the body, and so you can see different bodies of water. So you have that fractal surface area, and that contains all the information of the world, because that's where the world is on these surfaces of the water. And then depth. Depth is, yes, it's the depth of water, but depth can also be charge. Like the electrical gradients in the water. If one end of the water has a very strong electrical gradient, a positive or a negative or whatever, then that water, that area of consciousness is going to seem very, very deep, even though it might not be that deep in terms of like the amount of it stacked on itself. But the same amount of pressure, the same amount of pull can be generated with charge gradients. And so your consciousness of this body has a very vast, infinite surface and an insane amount of depth, done by the fractal network of hoses and different electrical gradients moving like inside of bags. So every little bag of water can have a charge gradient, and then how charged it is kind of determines how deep the water is. And then how that charge moves like determines a lot of things about how that water feels or sees or behaves. And all of this acting together, it generates this experience that you have of being a body. Essentially though, you're a body of water. The core of your activity being the heart, like where the greatest fluid flow is happening, is where people sense themselves the most. So you recognize who you are in the heart because it's freaking pressure, squirting. Like, oh, I'm moving. What am I? Oh, I'm connected to all of this. So people feel their ways through this. They figure this out. People figure out the nature of consciousness all the time, all the different qualities that it has, its relationship with Jesus Christ, how it forms and reincarnates, and what happens to it after death. All the different ways the human experience can like present itself to consciousness. And I'm not saying that you're just water. Like water holds something. It's, it's uploading to the great cloud in the sky. As far as I can tell, you do exist as an individual in the water. But water can't separate and have individual experiences. And obviously there's like an embodiment process and incarnation process that everyone has mapped, and you'll find like this has been mapped. People go, oh, what's the proof for this? What's the proof for awareness or consciousness is water? The proof is every single thing you can think about. Find one experiment, find anything. There's a reason baptism is what it is, right? And so if you just integrate that one fact, you are suddenly not spiritually blind anymore. Consciousness is not invisible to you, and you can see how it connects to and incarnates into this world like very easily because you're not blind.